Good afternoon, traders. Today is Monday, March the 18th, 2024. It is a Monday after OPEX, whatever you call it. I've really done any prep for this video, so we'll do it together. It's a good thing y'all aren't paying for this, but there's not a whole lot that happened today. It was a pretty simple day. It was actually a nice day to trade. Everything made a lot of sense, but so you want to start with my Substack just to see fresh y'all with what I was looking at this morning. So my mission plan, large gaps can be tricky, but my overall bias is to trade in the direction of the gap. My first focus, though, is to watch for inventory correction, gap fill early in the session. And I wrote, we can have a day where we open higher, build value higher, and still one time frame down all day. That's where the tricky part comes in. So what I was looking for, in the overnight session, let me go ahead and open these up too. So in the overnight session, we traded higher most of the session. And then a few hours into the Euro session, we took the previous day's high. You can see right here, that's what this line is for. Also, where the 1 sigma up is. So we took that high and then we bounced there for a while, and I'm assuming we ran some stops above that area and had a strong move up higher. The thing is we got acceptance up there in that area. So we can see after we got higher, and then we balanced there for a few periods before the open, where we opened up right here. So that's one clue right there with that acceptance before the open, that we might hold those prices if there's a bid there that someone wants to be long up there, or lots of people want to be long up there. So we open up, and then we couldn't really trade below the open. We couldn't really get any volume, any acceptance down there. And so I wrote in here, I will take early attempts at breaking a 30-second opening range down. With inventory this long, I believe the probabilities are in my favor. So I didn't realize this until later today, but for some reason my clock is not synced on my computer. So I took the opening range break lower, even though it didn't happen. I thought it did because it was measuring part of the overnight session. So anyway, it didn't work, but it didn't happen either, so I shouldn't have taken it. We did break the opening range higher, moved higher. And on days like today, where we have a pretty decent gap, I think it was 23 points or something, you start to get in that area where you might not even try to fill the gap at first. You have a lot of people that might have been short, or at least short enough that they were in trouble after a 23 point gap higher. So those people may cover at the open, i.e. be buyers. So that helps fuel more of a rally up. And then I had a level here, 52.22, which I already took off my chart, but this 52.22 that worked out pretty decent for support on the IB and A and B period. So we moved higher. We took this pullback level, a overnight high, and B period, we one time framed up again, and fell short of this supply area that I had on my price map today. So after we got to the supply area, we put in a pretty decent excess in B period, and then C was an inside bar. And after C, we one time framed down all the way until G period. So this is what I was talking about here, that we can open higher. We can have a day where we open higher, which we did. We want to monitor for continuation of that move. We build higher value, which we obviously did in the beginning of the session, actually throughout the whole session. But we actually one time frame down most of the day, which is what happened to us. And it's just tricky. So what do you trade? How do you get involved in this market? And if we look at this one, which is a broken out session, like I said, we had after the open, we couldn't break the opening range break lower. we couldn't get the open. We couldn't really trade below the open. So that's a great area to look for higher prices. It's early in the session. It's a little more risky, I think, with less information to lean on. But then we have B period come in, and B period can't get A's low. And we end up one time framing higher. C period, we couldn't really pull back much further than A's high. So that's pretty bullish. We didn't get half back on A period, didn't get half back on B period. So buyers stepped in a little bit sooner. It didn't end up working out, but it gave you enough, at least, I think, to move a stop up, get your risk off on the trade. But then on C period, whenever you leave that much excess ahead of a supply area like this, on top of that, you have the IB high here, then I think you start to monitor for, maybe that's about all the market can do right now. We might try to go fill that gap. And so then we take the low of C period. And from this point on, we're one time framing down. So we took the low of C and one time frame down, I believe, all the way until G period finally took A's low. And if you have any doubts that you might be able to get A's low, you don't have much excess here. You have a large gap underneath you. You have more excess at the highs. And I pointed this out in the futures room. I don't know if I can see if I can find that without, I don't want to show a bunch of stuff that other people are saying, but I also want the video to be 20 minutes while I'm trying to find a particular message. We have more excess at the highs and the lows. They just bought the open, but I don't feel good about longs here. So this was in A, B, C, D, E, F period, where they had bought the open, but I just didn't feel good about it. I think the probability is better for a move up, but I just don't feel good about it. And then talking about something with GEX, which I can actually pull up GEX here. So early in the session on GEX, we had the wall set with pretty good range, which isn't surprising after a gap. But then the call wall just moved lower all day long, and we had negative GEX. So, up till about lunchtime, really didn't give you too much of anything to lean on, but after lunch, it really gave that directional bias to be short. So anyway, we finally take the IB low, and we continue moving lower and one time framing until I believe I period. Let me take a look at it on here. So yeah, I period, we stopped the one time framing, and then J made a much higher low. So we took I and G's high, and then K, we had an outside bar, we had some liquidation, which is another thing that we look at in the room. We saw this coming as well because of K's volume. Or because of J's volume, sorry. Which that's another thing. It's kind of tough for me to share this stuff without really having people's permission to share their messages. But anyway, we saw the volume dying out, look for that liquidation, and then M period we ended up having this spike down. So what did we accomplish today? We gapped up. We held pretty much half gap. So we didn't just fill the gap, get back in the previous day's range. And took the overnight high, and then we set higher value for the day. So we did move value up on the day. So those are all bullish things. What we couldn't do, we couldn't get the IB high. We couldn't get up into our supply area here. We fell short of that. And then with this price probe lower, we have higher value, but we do have a market that was putting in more bearish MGI than bullish MGI. So we have FOMC on Wednesday, and typically Tuesday before FOMC, or maybe a little bit of movement in the morning. And then it typically starts to dry out and give us pretty tight ranges, not a whole lot of good opportunities. we'll watch. We'll see if we open up down here, if we can get acceptance in M period, we can fill the rest of this gap, perhaps get back in this range. Or if we move higher, I'll be watching this 29 area as opposed to that 22 area that I was watching today. Let's see what we got on the calendar for tomorrow. Housing starts 6:30. We have the 52 week, we have the 20-year auction. That'll be interesting. And then the big thing will be on Wednesday with the FOMC, and then Powell's press conference. Thursday we have jobless, Philly Fed, manufacturing, PMI composite flash, I believe UK as well, existing home sales. And then the 10-year tips, we have Powell speaking again on Friday, along with Michelle Bowman, Philip Jefferson, and Bostic. So some great things to look forward to there. So that's pretty much it. We put in million contracts traded today. We had 30 points of range. So average range, lower than average volume, a rotational factor of -8, a lot of one time framing down. And then delta on the day was -5,500. So I dropped a note in my Substack, the PM notes after the session. I'm going to start doing that more often. I also included my Substack link down below in the video. So if you want to see my morning write-ups that I do, then just subscribe there. They'll send them to your email, or you can check them out in the morning. I also post them on my Twitter usually, and update with basically my plan for the day. So I hope you all have a good night, and I'll see y'all in the morning.